What's up YouTubers, Johnny DIY here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to diagnose and fix noisy, scraping, or grinding brakes on your vehicle or car. If you guys are new to my channel, please do me a favor, click the subscribe and the notification bell. That way you can get my new videos. Alright, let's get to this one. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and jack up the vehicle. But before you do that, you're always going to want to put on your emergency brake on. And you're going to want to chock the wheels on the opposite end of the side that you're jacking up so it doesn't roll back. And if you don't have power tools, go ahead and knock loose your lug nuts first with a wrench or a ratchet before you jack it up. That way you can get those wheels off. I'm going to go ahead and slide a jack stand underneath for safety. Okay, so to figure out which brake you need to work on, what I suggest doing is finding a nice quiet part of town, nice quiet road. Maybe put someone in the passenger seat of your car, roll the windows both down and stick your heads out on each side. You should be able to pinpoint which side that the noise and which wheel it's coming from. Sometimes when you jack up that side, you can go ahead and spin the wheel by hand and kind of hear and feel that grinding or scraping noise as well. So this is the front braking system on this car, and most front brakes today are a setup like this where it's a rotor right here and a caliper. And how this works is there's two pads in the caliper and the rotor spins, and what happens is the calipers squeeze onto the rotor, and that's what stops your vehicle. We come to the side of the caliper, there's a little viewing window for the rotors and pads. Right here is the rotor, these two thick pieces of metal, and then each side is a pad, and those are the ones that squeeze on the rotor like I was telling you. And each pad has about, I'd say, 3/8 material that's bonded to the pad. These right here are the backing plates of the pad, and as the pads wear out, this material will get smaller and smaller. These pads that look like they're almost brand new, so the pads aren't worn out. Just the pads wearing out can cause noise and scraping and squealing noises. If the pads are really thin, say the thickness of a dime, that's gonna mean they're definitely worn out and they can start squeaking and actually start to wear down your rotor. Now your rotor can also be the cause of these grinding noises as well. These also wear out over time. What you're gonna wanna do is if you take your finger and you put your fingernail on it and you run it up and down the rotor, it should be nice and smooth. If it goes down and up and down and up, like there's a bunch of little grooves built into this, that means that the rotor is pretty grooved and worn out, and you're going to need to either replace the rotor or you can have them machined down and smooth again. I usually just replace them. Another cause could be the surface of the rotor. Sometimes this builds up surface rust, say maybe after it rained or your car's been sitting for a couple weeks or so. This is going to build up surface rust, and you're going to notice it right off the bat because that surface rust is going to be grinding on the pad every time it goes around and around and around. Don't worry about that. That's going to wear off when you use your brakes, and it'll go away usually within a day. Now if we look right here on my rotor, you can see a visible line, and it's going all the way around the rotor, and I can feel it, and it's a little bit of a groove. And what can happen here is if something gets caught in between on your caliper, say you're driving on a gravel road and rocks are kicking up, one can get jammed down in there, and that'll cause scraping and grinding noises as well. So let's go ahead and open the caliper up so we can get a better view of those pads and the caliper. And then this little clip right here on the top. Now each brake system is a little different with these clips and slide pins, but once you have that out, there we go. Now I can check out the pad. Here it gives you a better view. This is that backing material I was talking about, and this is the actual braking material that's on the pad. This is the part that wears down, like I said. Doesn't look like there's anything stuck on it now. You want to make sure that these are nice and smooth. They don't have a bunch of pitting or holes in them or anything, or gouges. This one looks good. Also, some brakes have sliding pins, and those need to be greased as well. You're going to want to use some of this. This is special Sil Glide brake lubricant, or you can use 100% silicone paste. I'll go ahead and put some links down in the description to this for you guys to check it out, as well as the other tools and supplies I'm using today. But if your brakes have caliper slide pins, those need to be taken out and cleaned and greased periodically, or what can happen is your caliper can kind of end up seizing closed, and it can start dragging one of those or both of those pads on the rotors, and that'll wear out your pads and rotors really quick, as well as it won't give you very good braking power for that brake. These particular calipers don't have those sliding pins like that, but let me show you on another vehicle real quick. First thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen up those caliper slide pin bolts. Take them out one at a time. Slide it out. You're going to want to inspect your slide pin bolt, make sure it's not all gouged up and stuff. Wipe it down with a paper towel and get off all that dirty grease. Slide that caliper pin bolt back in, and we'll come down to our bottom one. We'll take that one all the way out, slide our greased pin in, tighten both of them back up. Now another reason that could be causing noise is that you need to lubricate certain points of the pads. You can put a little grease on the back of the pads. That usually just helps them from sticking, but for the noises, now we can get our nice new pads, and before we put them in, we're going to want to put a little of this brake grease, the same stuff we used on the caliper pins. We're just going to put a little on these ears of the pads because they come in contact with our brake clips, so keep them from making any noise or binding. Just a little on each side. We just slide those little ears right into our brake clips. Careful not to get grease on any of the surface on the pad. Okay, time to put the pad back in. Make sure that the curve of the pad lines up with the curve of the rotor. So now if you do have an issue with those pads being worn out and or the rotors, it's really an easy process to replace the rotors and pads and do it yourself. I have a lot of videos on that. Okay, so once you've got it jacked up, you can go ahead and spin the wheels and listen for any sound. If you're gonna do the rear wheels, you're gonna have to, once you get it jacked up, take off the parking brake. Just make sure those front wheels are chalked so that it doesn't move when that parking brake's off. We can just give it each of our wheels a spin, and we're going to be listening for any odd sounds. This one sounds like it's dragging a little more than usual. Could just be buildup of rust. You're also going to want to check the treads of the tires first to see if there's any rocks or pebbles in between, because that's going to mimic the same sound. Okay, so we're also going to want to take a look at this behind the drum or the rotor. In this case, this is the drum. This is your brake shield, and this protects your brakes from water and debris from splashing in. You're going to want to make sure that none of this is touching the rotor or the drum, because if it's bent, they bend pretty easy. They can start dragging. And if we look under here, all the way on the bottom right here, it looks like it's pinched right here. Something must have got wedged in between the wheel and this at one point, or what happened most likely is someone was working on this and maybe dropped it. Actually, it might have been me. I was changing a flat tire once. I'm just gonna stick a nice sturdy flathead in between there, and I'm gonna just bend it down a little bit. Shouldn't take much. Only needs a little bit of a clearance. There we go. Now there's nice clearance. We can go ahead and take this drum off. There's a couple holes right here that are threaded. These get stuck on here sometimes, so all you need to do if yours is stuck is find the right size bolt and you drive it in, and that's gonna push it away, push it off. Now we can go and inspect our brake shoes right here. These are like your brake pads on the front, but on drum brakes, there's one shoe on each side. And these actually go like this. They expand and drag on the inside of the drum. These actually look like they still got quite a bit on them. Go ahead and inspect the inside of our drum as well. Check for any gouges. Feels smooth, so those are good. No grooves or anything. These feel smooth. Inspect your shoes. No fluid leaking or anything. This is your wheel cylinder. That would be leaking fluid if you had a bad one. You'd notice that. Now if you put a little of this anti-seize around right here, around this part of the axle on the back, this will prevent it from sticking on. Go ahead and put it back on. Always hand thread your lug nuts first. Make sure you don't cross thread them before you use any power tools or even a ratchet. For a jack stand, and even if you use power tools to put your lugs back on, you're always going to want to do a torque wrench after. Each wheel is going to have a different spec, so make sure you go ahead and check your manual. Once it's down on the ground, you can go ahead and torque them down. And you're going to want to do this in a star pattern as well.
And the last thing I want to cover in today's video, if we go ahead and put the key in our ignition and turn it to on, and we check the lights on our dash, come on over here and you can see this light that says ABS. That stands for anti-lock braking system, and what that does is controls your brakes so that they don't lock up when you really slam on your brakes, they pulse. But it looks like this light is staying on. That means there's a problem with your ABS system. That could be one of the things causing problems with your braking system as well. Now to see what's wrong with your ABS system, you're gonna need access to a scan tool that has ABS reading capability. Some auto stores may loan it out and check it for you, but this is a nice basic entry-level one from CG Sulit, SC880. I'll make sure I go ahead and put links down in the description if you guys want to check out one of these scan tools. It actually does quite a bit for what it costs. Got a cord and we plug it into our OBD2 port, which is usually up underneath your dash somewhere. And we're gonna arrow over to diagnostics. And this is an Asian made vehicle. Arrow down to Toyota. Go look up the VIN. There it is, Tundra 2002. Go ahead and do a quick scan. See what comes up. ABS 1. So we'll go ahead and arrow down to that. Check that out. There we go. If we arrow down, there, CO200 present. Front speed sensor, right hand circuit. So what that means is there's speed sensors on all your wheels. That's what helps relay the signal to your anti-lock braking system, and these little sensors go bad every once in a while, so it looks like the passenger side front one is worn out. So I'll go ahead and change that out in a separate video. But there can be numerous problems with an ABS system. With that scan tool, it'll give you a better idea to proceed from there. And then the last thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go for a test drive and really listen for that noise and see if it went away, or maybe you might need to check another wheel. So hopefully you found something in this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and click the notification bell. That way you can get my new videos. Thanks for watching Johnny DIY. Keep on doing it yourself, guys. Take care.